Hello and welcome to this episode of the Office Freedom Podcast Flex with Richard Smith. Joining me as always is my co-host Richard, and this afternoon we are joined by a very special guest. It's Bobby Lane, the CEO and founder of Factotum.
Hi Gavin, how you doing?
So in today's episode we're going to be talking a little bit about corporate and social responsibility, and Bobby's going to tell us all about business outsourcing, with a little bit of news thrown in from Richard across the board for the property sector. So Richard, everybody from the past few weeks knows all about you. I think we should let Bobby introduce himself. Bobby, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and Factotum.
Thanks, Gavin. So I'm Bobby Lane. I'm the CEO and founder of Factotum. And Factotum was set up to work with owner-managed, fast-growing, scale-up businesses and really provide them with all the services they may need to help them grow their business. So it's looking at the areas they might have gaps either internally or externally, and under one roof being able to work with a business and say to them, look, you focus on what you do best, and we've got the teams in-house that can service the areas where you might be struggling either internally or with your external professional relationship.
So tell Richard now, what would be a typical client for you?
There's no typical client. We're not sector specific. We're working with businesses of all shapes and sizes. So we're working with some startup and scale up businesses. We're working with some larger companies, and we've got some international clients as well that are also setting up in the UK or looking to go abroad. So it's a client really that's looking to be flexible with how they're operating.
We like the word flexible, by the way.
Absolutely. That's the Flex. It's the Flex podcast. So I thought I had to get flexible in. But no, it's working with businesses who are looking at really working their business properly and making it work effectively, and looking at how they can effectively manage the back office and those services they might be struggling with.
And what's your relationship with Richard and with Office Freedom?
So Office Freedom's a business I've known for many years and been very impressed with. And the fact that they've have a global presence and probably the largest global platform of flexible office space in the world was incredibly exciting for us, because our clients are all looking at scaling up or looking at building their businesses. And what they're saying to us is actually, we're going to need office space. So we needed to partner with a business that could go to those companies and say to them, you know, we can help you with that office space need, that office space requirement, and give them that best advice. So Richard had it both domestically and internationally. So for clients coming into the UK or our businesses that were growing, we could then say to them, look, we've got the team internally now that can work with you to find that space. But also those that were going internationally, we're able to say to them, look, we can look international as well because we've got the platform. So as they go on their growth curve, Office Freedom was the perfect partner to be able to help us build that property.
Listening to what Bobby was saying, there is actually a lot of synergy, because when Bobby said that he's not sector specific in also the terms of the size of business. We also have a mixture of startups, SMEs, and also large corporations, and they could be looking in the UK or US or globally, which is a perfect match with Bobby's clientele.
So Richard, kicking off this week's news, tell us what's going on in the flex space.
Cisco, Salesforce, Nestle, NTT, Standard Chartered Bank, they've all entered the flex arena. And as it happens, IWG have had a good start to the year, because these are clients that they have signed up. Roughly 500,000 new members that have entered the flex industry and committed to memberships. So it's not so much actual office space deals, it's more memberships which include access to business lounges, meeting rooms, and the various 3,300 locations that IWG, which incorporates Regus and Spaces, that they have globally. So that's some very encouraging news.
So I guess the link here is the emergence of hub and spoke working.
Yes, I think the fact that there are so many flex locations in suburban areas, it really does fit in with how companies are thinking about officing today. In fact, Mark Dixon, the founder and CEO of IWG, recently said that he's thinking of opening up flex spaces in areas like rural Wales and the Hebrides, which previously he would never thought of doing, but because the hub and spoke and the suburban locations have become so much more popular, that's why it's happening.
And Bobby, can I bring you in here? What's your thoughts on this whole sort of emergence of location working of a hub and a spoke?
So what we've seen over the last year is the largest global test of home working, and people have tried to work from home. People have worked from home successfully. But what we've also seen is that there is a need to get back into the office and get people back into an office working in some kind of environment, because it's very, very difficult to build the culture, train your team and get a company moving if you can't have people in some kind of office together. But what we're seeing is businesses talking about having some kind of hub and a central office for people to work from, but also accepting that people will now be wanting to work from home or work outside of the city centre now, which is a way that they can still have that kind of working environment, but also thinking about how they create the culture and continue to drive the team forward.
So are you seeing activity in central areas or suburban?
Well, we've talked about the hub and spoke and how popular suburban locations are, and yes, there is increased demand for that area. But like anything, there's always two sides to a conversation. Derwent London, who have 5.6 million square feet of offices, so that's a lot of tenants. They did research recently and conducted a survey, and it transpired that their tenants basically said that they had missed the office, that they had missed collaboration, and being able to be like having social interaction. And on the back of that, they feel that the demand for office space will not wane particularly. Ernst & Young recently said that $11,000 per year can be saved per employee if you have a hybrid solution, which, if you look at the other side of the coin, Derwent, having done that research, you can see that a lot of people still want to be central and they still want to have that social interaction. So I just think there's two sides to the coin.
And Bobby, are you seeing this across your client base as well in terms of the way they're trying to bring their staff back to the office and how they're arranging their office facilities?
Yeah, what we're seeing at the moment is that people are getting a bit lethargic with working from home. Now they know that the vaccine program's working very well, and it looks like things are going to start opening up. People are now kind of over working from home and are thinking, actually, I really would like to get back into the office now. And they're finding the frustrations that they had to accept previously, they don't want to accept anymore. And I think people are genuinely wanting to get back into an office and work with their teams and work in an office environment.
So with everybody returning back to the offices, are we going to see a shift maybe out of non-core staff and services? You're going to see companies downsizing their workforce because they can outsource some of their staffing requirements?
Well, I hope so, because that's the basis of my business. But what we have seen over the last year, and in particular, a trend towards businesses looking at how they can be effective. There's two challenges that COVID has thrown up. One is the flexibility in their cost base, and one is being stuck with potential issues with staff. So what they're now looking at is saying, actually, are there areas that we can outsource so that if they're non-core, they're non-revenue generating, can we be more flexible with the service provision? But whereas previously they may not have wanted to do that because they're worried about not having them on site, people over the last year have got used to not having their finance department, their HR department, their marketing team sitting in a room with them. So previously, when I've tried to explain the benefits of outsourcing, a lot of businesses have been worried about not having the person on site. Well, for the last year, they've got used to not having them in the room unless they move their HR director and finance director into their business with them. So it's, I think people are going to be looking at outsourcing now.
And also the content of outsourcing is exactly what the flexible workspace industry is all about. You are outsourcing all of the FM, facilities management of the building, to the operator of the space, which allows you to basically crack on with your day job and focus on your main business.
So we're seeing, Richard, with our clients at the moment, a lot of them are focusing on their CSR programs and sustainability goals. And I think that the office space and the flexible office space providers are very well placed to help businesses reach those goals.
Yes, exactly. We were talking about Derwent London before, and actually they're an example of a very, very large landlord who have committed to ending the carbon footprint. It was by 2050, but they've just reduced it to 2030, recognising the urgency of the climate change, sustainability, environmental issues. Sir David Attenborough was recently quoted as saying that, we are about to reach a tipping point. Without urgent action, the world is going to be having a serious problem, and I think everyone tends to hear those articles and listen to that on the news, and they kind of they try to mentally put it somewhere else at the back of their mind, pretending it's someone else's problem. But if we all do that, that is going to be everyone's problem.
But the providers, I think, are going to have to focus on their sustainability goals and their programs, because if the clients are demanding it, they'll want to be put into flexible space that is aligned with their goals and their CSR programs. So I think they've got to accelerate those programs because it's so important to those businesses that are going to be their customers of the future.
Yeah, I mean, the flexible office providers have responded very quickly. In fact, COVID has helped focus the mind on that and made everyone be aware of their responsibilities more.
One challenge that businesses are facing at the moment is finding people. It's always been it was a challenge pre-COVID. It's going to be a challenge. It's been a challenge during COVID, and will be a challenge post-COVID as well. But what we're seeing is this generation of employees and the next tranche of school leavers and university leavers coming into the workplace are much more focused on sustainability, much more focused on a business's CSR program and what the companies that they're working for are giving back to the community. So I think that what we're going to see is a lot of the employment strategy and recruitment strategy being driven by what a company can give. A company that someone wants to go and work for will have to have a proper sustainability program and be very environmentally friendly. So I think it's very important that for the providers of flexible office space, they're aligned with those strategies, they're aligned with those corporate strategies. And when a business is looking at a provider or somewhere they're going to work from, that the team are actually physically going to be looking at what a company's doing and where they're operating from and what their offices look like and what their offices are giving back in terms of sustainability, and are they environmentally friendly, are they recycling, and that's going to drive the decision-making process about what office businesses want to look at.
And this leans straight back into what we've spoken about over the last couple of weeks, which is these service office providers really do think about the office space, about the recyclability, about how the well-being of their staff.
What I'm seeing, Richard, is that the serviced office providers, whether they have invested in their sustainability programs and CSR programs or not, and we've seen Derwent, as you said earlier, have accelerated their program, they are going to have to look at this as a key strategy for them in the future, because their clients of the future are focused, and their company values are going to be focused around sustainability if they want to attract the right staff. So if those providers want to get those clients in there in the future, they're going to have to focus on it. So it's something that's going to have to be a real strategy for them.
Yeah, I think, to be fair to the flex industry, they have addressed that to some degree already. Just the concept of sharing the communal areas and having furnished accommodation, for example. I mean, how many times have you heard of companies relocating and literally having like hundreds and hundreds of chairs and desks that they don't know what to do with? You know, that type of thing is just never happens in a flexible environment, because clients go into a flexible, furnished scenario that is pre-built, pre-wired, and pre-fitted. So, you know, the amount of resource that is saved by going into something that is, you know, already prepared is exactly along those lines.
Now, I know this is going to lead us into something you feel very passionately about and something you want to talk about, which is Super.
Yes.
What can you tell Bobby and I about Super?
Super is a non-for-profit entity in San Francisco, set up about a year ago by Manuel Makeda, and who's recently been joined by a friend of mine called Tracy Wilson. Tracy has been in the flexible workspace industry for probably 15 years or maybe longer, with an operator called Pacific in San Francisco Bay Area. And the idea of Super is that they offer a certification to companies who have ticked various boxes, whether it be a gold, silver or bronze, dependent on how far they've gone, but it's an ongoing process. So it's a certification that you will receive for committing to eliminating single-use plastics.
Within your business,
each individual companies in their offices will receive that certification. And I just think it's an incredible cause, and something that, you know, we've all got to embrace and take very seriously very quickly.
So, leaning into your own business, Richard, where would you implement Super?
Well, it's something that we would do ourselves as much as possible. There's, you know, even the other day I was watching the news, and a news conference actually, with Jurgen Klopp, and he was drinking out of a plastic water bottle, and I'm thinking, Why is it that the TV companies or whoever isn't addressing that issue? Why are they just drinking out of plastic and not really understanding the fact that, by 2050, it's anticipated that in the oceans there'll be as much plastic as there is fish? I just think that the obvious isn't being done. So as far as we're concerned, yes, we have eliminated plastic water in our office. We use Cano water, which does exactly what it says on the tin.
A can of water.
A can of water,
That's
which
very
is
clever.
aluminium. And obviously can be continuously recycled, so fits perfectly with the circular economy. But also what we can do is to promote the super certification to, we have 15,000 flexible workspace properties on our network, on our platform. So all of the providers of flex spaces, we can talk to them about that and encourage that. Plus, we are receiving on a daily basis, literally scores of inquiries from clients all over the world who are looking for flexible workspace, and we would do, we could easily promote it to them as well, which we will do. I mean, I'm in conversation with Tracy and Manuel about being involved. At the end of the day, sometimes you just have to say to yourself, we've got to do something, and we've got to do something fast.
Yeah, you can't stand on the sidelines forever with this one. And I would say, going back to what you said earlier, Bobby, it is the younger generation that is really going to push, behind us to make sure that all of us who have ruined the planet, they're going to step up, hopefully at some point, and insist that in the workplace, it's going to have to be, a place where it's going to be plastic free.
Absolutely. I think that the key here is it has to be, can't just be words on a website or words on a page. It has to be a company value that's lived, and the team have to live it, the company has to live it, and it comes from the top and the management who show that that's what they believe in, and putting something like Super in and making that something that the business is involved in is really going to permeate throughout the organisation, and you're going to get it from both ends. If management are committed to achieving that goal, and the younger generation coming in and feel passionately about it, it's going to meet in the middle somewhere, and hopefully that will then become a core value of the company.
Yeah, I think that companies will have to address this sustainability issue quickly, because Gen Y, Gen Z, people from that age group, they want to identify and work for companies that also share those beliefs.
So, Bobby, Factotum. First of all, tell me where the name came from.
So it's actually Latin, and the direct translation is do the whole thing. So when I was thinking about what we were trying to do, the core, I suppose the core message in the business is that we want business owners to focus on what they do best, and we can help with all other areas. So actually, when you looked at it in Latin, fac was do and totum was the whole thing. Put it together, we're a team that can actually do all the bits and pieces that you don't have within internally.
Now, you started Factotum literally just as the pandemic hit, didn't you?
That was perfect timing. Absolutely brilliant. Yep, I sold my last business, stayed with it for a while, and then left and left my company, set up the new one about 2 weeks before lockdown started. But it's not all bad. Because I think what we've seen is a trend towards people wanting these services. I've been providing outsourcing services for 18, 19 years now, so it's not new to me. I set up the first owner-managed SME outsourcing business in the accounting profession, and what Factotum is a progression of that, and taking that one step further and offering it across multiple service areas. So actually having started it within the pandemic has helped slightly, because businesses are now open to outsourcing because they understand that actually you might not need someone sitting beside you. But secondly, a lot of businesses now are saying to themselves, if something like this were to ever happen again, we've got to be flexible. We have to be able to cut our costs or scale ourselves up and down as quickly as possible. And that works with Richard's business. So being, as Richard said earlier, if you can cut your office space down very, very quickly, if you're also able to cut those back office services very rapidly and reduce those, it's going to make your cost base much more flexible. So it's the right time to do it. It would have been nicer if we could have been out and about meeting people, but ultimately it's the right model for now.
And how are you going to adjust to bringing your team back together?
Well, it's been really interesting because I set up the business just before lockdown. So I've managed to start a business, build a team, pitch work, win work, deliver work with a team that have never actually sat in the same room. So it's never met. And we're doing some fantastic work for clients. We're getting some amazing results. But again, they've never met. What we've had to do, and Richard's been on some of the calls, we've tried to create some kind of environment and team environment through Zoom calls and online communication, but it's a struggle to get the same type of culture and the ideas that flow from sitting in the same room as someone. So if you're sitting around a table and listening to what's going on in the business and listening to what's happening and what people are doing, it's easier then to build a business that way than it is online. So I think the progression will be over the next few months, moving us all into an office together and starting to get into some kind of more traditional culture and team building.
Sorry to interrupt you, Gav. I just wanted to ask you, Bobby, do you have any idea when you might be looking for an office? And if so, do you know any, I might know someone that could help you.
Well, you built me a property team. So you've got me a property team. So I know where I'm going.
And Bobby, what are you seeing from your clients in terms of their emergence from COVID? What are you seeing from them?
So I think there's three key areas that people have had to focus on. One of them is their cash and their reserves and their funding for their business. I think we've seen historically SMEs and owner-managed businesses have historically been undercapitalized because they've been drawing out money or they've been reinvesting it in the business and growing it. So they haven't always kept enough money in for a rainy day. And a lot of those businesses are now saying, actually, as we go forward, we've got to make sure we leave more cash in our business.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stop check.
If something were to happen again, so that we know that actually if we've made as many of our costs as flexible as possible, we also need to make sure we've got the cash there to survive if something like this were to happen again. So that's one area. The other area is on the people side of things. It's making sure they've got the right management team in place to be able to drive the business forward. Have we got the right processes in place? Have we got the right people to help us out and take that business forward? And the third area is looking at their business as a whole and planning more effectively. So what we saw throughout the pandemic was a trend for businesses to be much more involved in the planning process and looking at cash flow forecasting and business plans and looking at what the short, medium and long term looks like. So you're going to see a lot more planning. You're going to see a lot more people planning what they're going to be doing and also what they do with their business. And I think we've talked about your business, Gavin, where you've had to move one area of your business went quiet because of the lockdown rules, but another area grew.
Quiet was an understatement.
Well, I was being polite. But I think what businesses have had to do is pivot and have a look at what they can do and be flexible. And the smaller the business and I suppose larger companies have struggled to move, but some have done it very successfully. I think it was Lint that set up their first online presence in history. And some businesses have moved online. Some have created true omni-channel businesses, so going from just bricks and mortar to online e-commerce and a true omni-channel business.
I was looking at retail actually the other day because if I was a retailer right now, having had my business shut for pretty much close to a year, I would seriously be considering that there is a very big chance this keeps coming back in some way, shape or form. I think we're all prepared for some kind of new wave and not the music type. So do you think that following that model, people are now going to start preparing for this post-COVID world in terms of a black swan event again?
So I think businesses were heading this way anyway, but what it's done is it's accelerated the move to e-commerce, and I talked earlier about an omni-channel presence. It's moving more towards a multi revenue stream business, but looking at what that business looks like. So for retail, if you're in the fashion sector, for example, you should still have a bricks and mortar presence potentially, but that will be more of a shop window and more an experiential site where people can go in and understand the business, try out your products, see what you're doing. But that needs to be seamless with your online presence and your e-commerce site, and everything needs to be seamless now and really represent your brand. So I think you will still see retail. People will still have bricks and mortar presences because you really can't get in some sectors the same experience online that you can get face to face with someone. So there will be bricks and mortar, but I think it's going to change more to an experiential type of retail experience rather than.
I also would like to say that I think we need to have a bit more confidence that we are going to return back to how things were. What's happened with the vaccine globally, but especially what the UK have done. We've gone
Our
past
rollout has been fantastic.
We've gone past the 20 million mark, and I've read that hopefully that the vaccine will be able to address the variants as well. So, once the whole country has been vaccinated, hopefully, people do have short memories, and when they have got the confidence and they got the vaccine, I think we've got to be looking forward to coming back to some level of normality. Yes, there might be an adjustment, but I don't think it's going to be as huge as everyone's thinking right now, because we're still in the middle of it.
I think that there's also a lot of pent-up demand. As we know, everyone's talked about the bounce and what might happen when we come back across lots of sectors. And what you're going to see is British people are resilient, British businesses are resilient, and they want to get back to normal as quickly as possible. And there's a lot of people with some great ideas and a lot of passion and a lot of energy to start moving those ideas forward. So you're going to see a lot of drive and a lot of passion to get things back to normal as quickly as they can, but also demand in certain areas. So, I was talking to someone today who said, when we get let out, I think I'm going to go missing from the business for 2 weeks because I'm just going to go and party for 2 weeks. And there's a lot of people that are saying they just want to get back to some kind of normal and some kind of life quicker.
I think it's happening. We have, and it was good that we have done so, because it's been a very, very challenging 12 months without much activity. But in the last 3 or 4 weeks, almost, every other day we are signing deals that are, for office space, and actually not membership, but actual office deals. I mean, on the way here, I got a call from one of my colleagues, John Ward, actually. I called him Dex because he's only just joined us recently, and he did a deal with an operator called Dexter House in Croydon. So I just called him Dexter, Dex for short. But now I'm going to call him.
He must be chuffed.
No. Now I'm going to call him a Peaky Blinder, because he's just done a 33 desk deal in Birmingham. So look, at the end of the day, we've done deals in London, Birmingham, and in the suburbs. So, like I say, I am an advocate for the fact that things are going to get back to normal sooner rather than later.
I want to hear the end of this term, the new normal. I want to get back to normal. Whatever our normal was, I think that's where life needs to get back to.
By the way, we can't get rid of the term new normal yet, Gavin, because I have mentioned it a couple of times in the recent pods we've done. So can we wait a little bit on that?
I think also what we've seen, a lot of people take stock of their lives over the last year and think about what they want for the future and what they want. And there's a lot of people in their sort of middle ages who are thinking, actually, what I was doing before, I don't want to go back to that. And there's a lot of people that are now looking at new opportunities, new businesses, things that they've always wanted to do, and actually have seen this as a life-changing moment and a way to adapt. So those people that are setting up these new businesses are perfect clients for yourself, because they're going to be wanting flexible office space. They're going to be wanting, they're smaller businesses that are going to grow rapidly, and they need that flexibility. So I think you're going to see a big demand in the people that are changing careers.
Bobby, basically, I've got a fantastic idea of starting a company, if you would help me, okay? I want to do
I don't know where this is going, Gavin.
Office Freedom 2. Because the more I sit into this podcast,
Join the queue, by the way.
The more I think to myself, this is really a very big opportunity. But of course, you've been in it for a very long time. So, the challenges are...
Well, look, when we did start in the early 90s, we were the first broker to do serviced offices, and we were the first for 6 or 7 years. And as in those days, by the way, it was just me doing sales. I mean, Lawrence was there with me as well, but he was, making, giving me a hard time and telling me off and that type of thing. But I was literally making call after call myself. Literally, I had a lot of T cards in my hand, and it was unbelievable. And for 5 or 6 years, we were the only game in town. But now, I can tell you that there's probably 999 brokers of Flex that all of a sudden woken up to the fact that it's a marketplace. So if you're going to do Office Freedom 2 with Bobby, you might need to make it Office Freedom 2002 because you got company.
I love that.
I think also what we've seen as well, which is very true, Richard, is that if you go back when I first started my outsourcing practice in 2003, no one knew what outsourcing was. You had to go and explain to someone what the benefits were, what it meant, how it worked, and why, and you had to explain it before you could sell it.
And it only took 17 years and a
pandemic. 17 years and a pandemic for people to... But I think over the last few years, people have now understood what that means. But during the pandemic now, people have got very comfortable with saying, actually, I'm quite comfortable with my person not sitting next to me, and I want it to be as flexible as possible. And I want to focus focus my investment in my revenue generating team that are going to bring profit to my business and grow the top line and my bottom line, and actually focus on managing the costs within the business and keep them as flexible as possible, whether that's office space or your accounts department.
I think the outsourcing concept is brilliant, and it's been around in the office space world for ages, because flexible workspace is the ultimate in outsourcing. You literally can outsource everything: your fit out, your IT, your telecoms. There's reception areas, there's staff there that can give you support.
Basically all the headaches.
Releases all the headaches. And also, for us as a business, we're now at the point whereby we have a very large database of clients, and a lot of them do sometimes say to us, listen, thanks very much for helping us find an office, but we actually also need some other services like accounting or legal. So actually, having a relationship with Factotum.
So it's Factotum Freedom.
Factotum Freedom.
I mean, everything's happening today.
It is. It's all good.
Yeah. But it's been there for a while, and now all of a sudden, as Bobby says, I do think that because people have been used to working from home and literally not really necessarily having to go out there and do everything themselves, the concept of outsourcing will fly.
I do feel like we're going to emerge from this very much stronger as human beings, as businesses, better run businesses, more streamlined. And actually, when you're shackled with the burdens of a business and the things you couldn't really change, this last year has given everybody an opportunity, assuming they've survived, to really make the choices to push forward in the way they want to.
I think, look, one of the key areas when you're running a business, if you're the owner manager or your CEO, you're the MD of a business, is you want to focus on those things that and all the other stuff that goes around it, you don't want to waste your time on. And when we started building the Factotum model with my team, we were saying to ourselves, we can't understand why a business would want to have 6 or 7 different professional service relationships with a lawyer, with an accountant, with a marketing agency, with an HR provider, with a property developer, with a flexible office space provider. Why would you want 7 or 8 different relationships? Because you've got to have the same conversation 7 or 8 times. You've got to brief 7 or 8 people. And we said, actually, if you could bring the whole lot together under one roof, it makes it really efficient for a business owner. And as these businesses drive for efficiency in the world as we go forward, we're saying to them, look, just make one call, talk to one firm. You can have your office space and everything handled in one place.
I don't want to coin a phrase for you, but you should throw in personal shopper. Because Richard loves the personal shopper of the office space world.
Well, to be honest with you, that credit needs to go to Julie Cold, our CMO, who came up with that phrase. And when we were having a chat about it, I said to her, personal shopper, aren't people going to think we're like in the retail business? And she said, well, not really, because the whole concept of personal shopping is outsourcing the hard work, and it's easy to fit it into our business. But I also just wanted to link into something that you said before, like you said, assuming that people have survived in business. Look, let's be honest, there's a lot of people that haven't. There will be a lot of businesses that have gone out of business. There will be a lot of people that have been made unemployed. And I just wanted to say to those people that it's obviously a difficult moment, but the ability to get up and go again, and start your own business, or just get another position is doable. People are recruiting, and the idea of being able to set up your own business might be daunting. But if you wanted to get an office, and excuse me, I'm not doing the whole sales pitch thing here. I am genuinely saying you can actually go into an office and start work the same day in a flexible office environment. You can literally, that is the beauty of it. And you can benefit from outsourced services from a company like Factotum. You can benefit from, do I need to employ various staff to do various things? No, you don't. I mean, in a serviced office, you can, there's a meet and greet area. So you have the receptionist there, you have support staff there, or you can employ whoever you need. But I'm just saying, it's not as daunting as you would think it is to go and set your own business up or to get up and go again.
Richard, Bobby, thank you so much for joining for this episode. It's been refreshing having someone sensible beside me today, Bobby, for change.
I've never been called that before. Thanks for having me.
And the infinite wisdom you've brought along. It's been a great insight, I think, for both of us into, the outsourcing of services. And I wish you the best of luck now that you can actually get into the office with all your staff. Richard, we're not going to tell everybody how many cuts it's going to take to edit out all your giggling fits. We'll leave that for some bloopers reels. Until next time.